As a fan of horror movies, Chucky and the Child's Play franchise is one that I've always had zero interest in. Now, of course, looking behind me, seeing how much I like action figures and toys, you would think, oh, a killer toy, that's fun. But I've always thought it was the dumbest concept in horror movies. I watched the first film several years ago, didn't like it, I had no interest in continuing or moving forward. However, this past summer, I decided, you know what, I'm going to watch all of them, and why? I don't know. But I was like, I'll just watch all of them. Now I'm actually like kind of a Chucky fan. I'm not sure how it happened. I'm not even like ready to admit it, but I am a fan of the franchise. So with that being said, today we're going to rank all of the films in the Chucky franchise. Now, disclaimer, I have not watched the TV show on Sci-Fi, so I can't speak to how good or bad that is or where that would fall in the rankings here, but eventually I do plan to watch it. So without further ado, I'm Josh from Dismash. Let's figure it out. Curse of Chucky. In absolute dirt last place, we have Curse of Chucky, which to me is one of the worst films I have ever seen. I'm a fan of horror movies. I'm in the horror movie community, so I feel like I'm allowed to say this, but I think a lot of times horror fans prop up awful movies just because they come from franchises that they like. Curse of Chucky is a movie that, it's a reboot, a soft reboot. It's something that's supposed to be more akin to the original Child's Play film, at least in tone. But oh my god, is this movie horrible. I try not to be someone that takes a dump on other people's work, especially publicly. I would rather, raise everything up as much as I can that I like. But man, this movie's tough to get through. It's so boring. It's not scary. The jump scares that are there aren't good and are cheap also and unearned, which I always hate in horror movies. The tone is off. It's lit horribly. The design of Chucky is abysmal. It's one of the worst character redesigns in the history of movies. It's frustrating. Characters are annoying. Pretty much everything about this movie sucks. The Seed of Chucky. Now this is probably a controversial one because I think a lot of people like The Seed of Chucky. But this is pretty much everything that I hate about the franchise of Chucky and everything that I thought I knew about it before going into it. I don't like the tone. I don't like the humor. I don't like the focus on Tiffany over Chucky. I don't like Glenda. I really hate that character. I find them very, very annoying and obnoxious. Pretty much everything about this film I really hate. Child's Play 2019. Now, you could say that this film has no place being on this list because it is a complete reboot and honestly kind of spits in the face of what Chucky is. And I would get that, but I did watch it, so I'm including it anyway. This film sucks. To me, the most interesting thing about Chucky is that it is a serial killer spirit implanted into the soul of this doll. And because of that, the doll carries the thoughts, emotions, and spirit of this serial killer. The personality of Chucky is one that is there from the beginning to the end, and it's one of the most entertaining things about the franchise. Casting a legend and an incredible voice actor, and more importantly, a voice acting villain like Mark Hamill with the Joker, casting him as Chucky was a phenomenal idea. And then they completely waste the performance. They do nothing with him. They give him no personality whatsoever by making him an AI. He's just a robot. He doesn't really have much emotion. He doesn't do anything. He's not funny. He's not scary. He's just there. On top of that, once again, the redesign is abysmal. He looks awful. Pretty much everything about this movie also kind of sucks. The Cult of Chucky. Now this is where I'm kind of like turning back around on the franchise and I really start to like it again. Cult of Chucky is the last Chucky movie released before the Sci-Fi television show. It's a direct sequel to Curse of Chucky, but it also brings the entire franchise together and brings a lot of the characters from the original films back into it. We're introduced to the concept of multiple Chuckies existing at once with the soul transfer from doll to doll. We also see a return of Andy from the original films. I think the main character is a lot more interesting in this film than she is in the Curse of Chucky. And I also like the insane asylum setting. I think it's fun and unique for the franchise. It's not a great movie by any means, but it was far more entertaining than the Curse of Chucky. Child's Play 3. Child's Play 3, I think, is actually an underrated film in the franchise, one that doesn't get enough love for what it is. It's definitely a step down from the original two, but I think the military boot camp is a really fun setting for the film, and I think Chucky's role and motivation in the film is interesting. I think Chucky using the kid and manipulating him and kind of taking advantage of the way that people don't believe kids is a really interesting foil to the way that Chucky's used in the first film. And in the first film, when Andy's trying to kind of tell people that Chucky's evil, they don't believe him. There's some really great sequences in this film. There's some really great kills. I think the War Games sequence with the live rounds was crazy and fit perfectly into the franchise. The Bride of Chucky. I think Bride of Chucky tends to be most horror fans' favorite Chucky movie, and I can understand why. It refreshes the concept, it brings it into a more modern age in the mid to late 90s. It kind of takes after Scream in the way that Scream satirizes horror films. It also takes the tone of Scream, and it's a lot funnier. It's a lot more engaging, a lot more exciting, not as much horror, way more comedy. We're also introduced to a fan favorite, Tiffany, character in the franchise, and I like her a lot in this film, way more than I do in The Seed of Chucky. Child's Play 2. Now for me, Child's Play and Child's Play 2 are pretty much equal, although I do think the first film is better, and we'll see why. But I think Child's Play 2 actually has the best scene in the entire franchise, and that's the ending of the film. I like the storyline of the film and the build up to the end, but the end is really where this film shines. The ending in the toy factory is pretty much one big giant homage to the end of The Shining, and they do it in such an engaging and fun way. It's scary, it's a cool, unique setting, it almost feels like a level in a video game, like a final boss level. It's really, maybe to me, the best scene in the franchise. Child's Play. First is the best. A lot of times that's how it goes. It's the thing that introduces us to the concept. In Child's Play, I do think is the best overall movie in the franchise. This film perfectly, to me, balances tension and camp. It understands that it's a serial killer inside of a doll, and that's stupid and sometimes funny, but also it's really creepy. The tension in these scenes and the way that it escalates is really, really done well, and ultimately, it's realistic. Who would believe that there's a serial killer inside of this doll doing these horrible things? Pretty much nobody would believe that. You would only believe it when you saw it, and even then you wouldn't be able to convince other people that it happened. So it does feel natural in the progression of the film. I also think it's Brad Dourif's best performance as Chucky, and in general, his take on Chucky is one of the most iconic in horror films, and he deserves a lot of respect for it. But Child's Play is the film that started it all, and is my favorite in the franchise. Well, that's my take on Chucky. It's my take on the Child's Play movies. Let me know in the comments if you love Chucky, hate Chucky, whatever you think. Let me know that I'm wrong and dumb. Just do it in a respectful way. But I'm Josh from Just Smash. Until next time.